You're listening to Find the Good News, Episode 29, The Elemental Fusion, featuring Carl and Chelsea Boudreaux. This episode of Find the Good News is sponsored by Parker Brand Creative Services, a branding agency that thinks sideways, pushes forward, and gets your brand up. Check out our work at parkerbrandup.com. Episode 30 posts next week featuring Irvin Luke with Lake Charles City Parks. Irvin is a naturalist and a ton of other things. It was a lot of fun, and I realized there's a lot more nature-oriented activities in our area than I thought, so there's no more excuses for me. Following Irvin, I've got local historian and author of Lost Lake Charles, Adley Cormier, and Catholic blogger, speaker, and author Diana Vallette. I expect a lot of people are going to tune into that particular episode. She has a pretty large following online. I also will be talking to someone that changed my life, my high school speech teacher, Alita Barnes. I think this is going to be a really special conversation. It's one I've been wanting to have for over 25 years, so make sure to tune in for that. I've got my first mixtape episode organized. It's looking like the Right Roundtable conversation is going to feature Good Newsies Rosie Pryor, Elizabeth McDaniel, and Paul Gonsalom. Check out those episodes at findthegood.news because I've got to get some of your questions in to help facilitate our conversation. If you have a question you'd like us to discuss, just call the Good News Listener hotline that I've set up and leave me a message. That number is 802-459-1668. That's 802-459-1668. You can call or text your questions, but I'd really love it if you'd call. That way I can play your questions on the show for me and the Good Newsies to listen to. I do have a couple of favors to ask. If you know somebody doing good works in your life, an unsung Good Newsie, you can send me their info and I'll see if I can get them on the show. You can email that info to me at goodpod@parkerbrandup.com. That's goodpod@parkerbrandup.com. You can also help get the good news out to others by following us on Instagram and Facebook, or by leaving a review of Find the Good News on your favorite podcast platform. It's a big help to a show like this and helps me keep it free. A like, a share, a comment, or a review can go a long way towards keeping this little show alive. And that's all I've got this week. I want to thank you all again for listening. Now let's press play on a little good news. Carl and Chelsea Boudreaux, the owners of the Yoga Center in Lake Charles and Stellar Beans Coffee House and Edibles, came in for a visit on Find the Good News. The three of us used to orbit some of the same friend groups in high school. For as much as you think you know about people, there's an ever-unfolding amount that you don't. This was especially true for me regarding this particular couple. It had been over 20 years since I'd spoken to Carl or Chelsea, and as it turns out, we had a lot in common back in the 90s, and even more in common now. Most people open businesses to make money. I mean, that's the bottom line and quite the point. But in visiting with Carl and Chelsea, I picked up on something else, a motivation outside the realm of profit and loss. Life, as it often does, put stress on these two. They took the hint. They intuited that they needed to make a change in their professional lives, a change that would reduce their stress levels, increase their overall well-being, and refocus their energies toward being a service to others and to each other. That's exactly what they did. With Carl's early interest and practice of Zen Buddhist meditation and Chelsea's adoption of yoga for health benefits, they were poised to be the right people at the right time to do what they did next. Carl and Chelsea Boudreaux took the individual elements of their lives, the raw goods they'd gathered in their journey together, and fused them into a direction that gave birth to the Yoga Center of Lake Charles, providing a solid center for peace, health, and equanimity in downtown Lake Charles. They spread that energy from the Yoga Center to Stellar Beans, the living room of Lake Charles, which is right next door. Between the two spaces, you'll find a karmic loop of events and activities open and accessible to everyone. Sometimes we know the spaces and places that make a city a home, but we don't know the stories, the little details, the auspicious circumstances and synchronistic events that have to tumble into place to bring good things to life. With the pairing of this lovely couple, my new old friends Carl and Chelsea Boudreaux, the stars aligned, the bones fell just right, and some really good things were planted right here at home.
Wake up, it's morning. You're dreaming up a story, I can hear the way it's going, 'cause you're laughing in your sleep on the path to your deliverance, and a holy wall of light pouring through your window.
Old news, bad news, fake news. Sometimes you just want to shut it all down and get no news at all. With Find the Good News, I aim to change that by focusing on good people doing good work. I visit with artists, educators, civic and spiritual leaders, musicians, business owners, students, volunteers, and everyday citizens who are using their creativity, resources, and talents to bring hope and happiness to their corner of the world. In each episode, I dig into the hearts and minds of my extraordinary guests. We have street-level conversations about relatable things going on in their lives. Discover the critical life experiences that shape them, the perspectives that drive them, and the fundamental beliefs that are anchoring them to a path of goodness. There's a lot of news in the world. My name is Oran Parker, and I'm going to find the good.
And I love you just as well.
I knew you guys from high school, but we haven't talked in a long time. And I guess I'm trying to make the correlation here between the yoga center and Stellar Bean, right? Because they seem to fit together like naturally. Yeah. I mean, I know you didn't plan it this way, that Stellar Bean would be right next to the yoga center, right? I mean, are y'all still...
Well, we had actually dreams when we took over the yoga center. I think it was maybe a lawyer's office or something when we first took over. It was something totally different. And we were hoping that when that would eventually come available, we could connect it in with a healthy food option, stuff like that.
Right.
And kind of expand over the
So y'all
yoga center.
already had that kind of idea that you would do that.
Yeah,
Right.
but we weren't in a position, 15 years ago to do that.
It was dreams.
Yeah, that was
Right.
dreams. So through time, other things had come on, and I think Dave Evans had started Stellar Beans. I don't remember what year.
Okay, so he was the original owner?
Yeah,
Right,
him
he
and his wife.
established it.
Oh, okay. All right. I think I remember that vaguely, but I didn't know them, so...
Yeah. And then Val and Matt ended up buying it.
Okay.
And they moved away to live with their other son after their first son got killed in a car accident.
Okay, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, so he was big in the community with music and things like that. So we keep
Okay.
a picture of him up at
Wow.
Stellar Beans.
That's nice. That's good.
Yeah, and so we were in Stellar Beans every day.
Yeah, so you're right there. It's a part of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most of our students, they frequent the place right there anyway. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a natural flow to, where they
Go
could
from
continue
yoga to get
conversations.
Yeah, well, I remember being in there and people coming in after and seeing people come in.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really, I guess I hadn't put two and two together. My awareness of the vicinity
Yeah.
wasn't there, that y'all were right there. So I thought it was kind of neat. I was like, so where are these people coming from?
Yeah. Walking in with their mats.
Yeah.
Well, so to backtrack a little bit about what we were talking about earlier, just listening to that, you talk about that natural synergy between two things, so that sounds like y'all's story too, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You
Did a
approach
lot
it.
of sports and everything in high school, and then looking for something to keep my body active and the healthy side of it. And so I discovered yoga, and I fell in love with it. It was like working out without getting in a gym and really working out that
Yeah.
way, but you got all the results in your body. And then Carl had a really bad back injury, and I told him, I said, try yoga, see what happens.
And that kind of set our yoga experience in motion, because she took on a role of helping me recover, learning everything she could to benefit, my recovery. And so we did that for quite a while. We didn't start the yoga center. It was actually started in '98 by one of our teachers.
Oh, okay. So it
Yeah.
was, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
been around, I think, this our 20th year or something like
Yeah,
that.
98, and Janet Houts established it.
Okay.
And she was looking to expand her future and go to the next journey in life.
Yeah.
So I talked to her about becoming an instructor, and she started training me personally and getting me ready, and I started teaching some of the classes. And then Carl had the bug also, so we looked into getting certified.
Okay.
And so we went to a certification in New Mexico, 9 days of pure bliss. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
And then
Wow.
we come back and Rita
No
hits.
phones, electricity.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
But yeah, we come back, and 2 days later, we had to evacuate because of Rita.
Oh, wow. So it's just dead center. You
Yeah.
get out, you walk right out of that
to
into
signing
that.
the papers
You
to
know,
this big
isn't that
hurricane.
sometimes the way it works? I know in my life, and I've learned to chuckle at it, but it seems like just on the other side of a really, I would call like a high level spiritual experience, something where I'm going, this is a push pin thing. Right on the other side is some kind of thing that challenges it. It's
That
been
little
that way
test.
for years.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's taken a lot of years to not fall into the other thing,
Yeah.
and just get pulled right in. So how do you guys do that? I mean, back then you come right out of that. Did it kind of arm you and prepare you for what came next?
It did.
I feel like it really did, because we were getting our feet wet with teaching and learning how everything was running, and then buying the yoga center, and all of that happening at once.
Oh my gosh.
And so then we just started offering free classes to the people who were helping
Really?
tear down some of the trees and different things like that.
The first responders, for the
Yes.
first couple of months, it was no income. We were just doing
It was
free
chaotic.
classes, and most of the time with no electricity for the first 2 weeks or so.
Wow.
But the yoga center was spared. There was a bunch of sand. How it got in there, I don't know, but the floor was covered with sand.
Sand
Really?
from the beach
Just-
downtown? Yeah.
From
No
the
water.
wind, I guess it got carried.
Yeah, just blew under.
Wow. What an interesting startup. I mean, really. I mean, so many things, I guess, with a business plan, you want things to go by the numbers, and everybody has a different story, and
Yeah.
sometimes they're difficult, but that one's kind of interesting. I mean, I'm sure y'all thought about that quite a bit. I
Yeah.
mean, you
Oh,
could
yeah.
have started and had like this perfect runway, but instead, right out the gate, you're challenged. And you do the right thing, right? You're offering yoga, which, I mean, it has physical benefits, but just the mental benefits
mental side,
for those
right.
people who are first responders.
To be able to escape all the chaos that was
Yeah.
going on outside.
Oh God, we could all use that.
Yeah.
I mean, I could. I need it. I have to have that time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's an interesting story.
It was really a great experience. It was eye-opening, but it was kind of like the calm before the storm.
Okay.
And then after that, we found our little groove and kept going and having workshops, and then seeing the journey that other people take with their body, and learning and living physical proof of what yoga can do. And
Yeah.
I think it's a wonderful experience.
So people come to yoga. I'm sure you've seen, and especially being in business that long and offering that service, people come to it for different reasons. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What would you say is the most common reason? Is it physical health?
Probably the biggest thing I hear
Yeah.
is my sciatic nerve.
Oh,
Yeah, sciatic, low back issues.
Really?
Which
Yeah.
is exactly what
That's
brought
what-
me to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Insomnia, people not being able to sleep, anxieties, stress, tight bodies. So it's wonderful, the different little things. And you don't have to set aside an hour at a time. If you have time to do a couple of stretches, a couple of twists here and there, you'll feel the results from it.
Yeah, so it's like to wade in, right? I'm assuming
Yeah.
that's how it is. Are there people that come and they are maybe afraid a little bit, or a little shy about it, or what they don't know what to expect? I mean, how do you?
Probably the majority are
Yeah.
afraid and shy and scared. They're not sure if it's going to be some kind of strange religious experience.
Sure,
or
I can
if
see that.
Or if it's going to be a hardcore physical. You see all these pictures of people in headstands and
Right.
these crazy postures that only a small percentage of folks can actually do. And
It's interesting that you touched that, because that's actually what I wanted to jump into. Has that changed for y'all since social media sort of has lit on fire? Because Instagram, you go on Instagram and follow any yoga hashtag, and you're going to see exactly what you just described. Like,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
things that you go, man, is that yoga? Because I can't do that.
Yeah,
Because
it-
it puts this wall up.
It's sometimes people want to show off and do the hardest thing that they could do. Well, there's a couple of different ways you can look at that. First of all, it's really cool that you could do that.
Yeah.
And it's something that you'll be able to look at over periods of time whenever you're 80 years old and be like, look
yeah.
what I could do.
Yeah.
maybe inspire someone.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
So, I mean, no matter if you're a beginner, I know the way that I teach, there's no judgments. It's bringing your attention inside and creating that new relationship with yourself. So if you
Yeah.
want to work strong, if you want to work gentle, we give you all the tools and the modifications so you can make it your own.
Yeah, I think it's listening to y'all talk, and I love the beginning of the story. I like how you come to it from. I'm oversimplifying it. I know I don't know all the details, but you come to it from a health body thing.
Right.
But you had this meditation element, which is sort of an internal mind thing. And so y'all come together and you're doing this yoga center thing, and it's really a beautiful fusion of both things, right? I mean, if somebody comes to it from the health angle or the physical angle, they're going to get the meditative benefit. If someone comes from the meditative side, they're going to get the physical benefit. So that's kind of a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and
I think we complement each other, really.
Yeah, I think so too. And sometimes you don't even realize what you're getting out of it until you step away, and then you're like, oh, I need to go back.
Yeah.
So I'm not real big with the alcohol in yoga.
I don't know about that.
Like they'll have beer in yoga or wine in yoga.
Like
and
fusion,
things
like
that.
events. I got you.
That doesn't speak to me, but what I like about it is there's people out there who would be like, I'm never going to do yoga.
Okay.
But I do like beer.
Yeah.
I do like wine.
Right.
And so that could get their feet wet in an atmosphere that they're comfortable with. And then maybe they'll fall in love with it and then come to special studios and things like that with certified instructors, and then you can go from there.
It's interesting. This just jars so many things that I think loose hearing you talk about that, because I think a lot about the tradition of a thing versus trying to appeal to a modern audience. And there are camps that would say that are traditionalist in a almost a militant way. I mean, there's probably yoga traditionalists, right?
They're
just militant about it. And then you've got people that are so loose with it that it's you feel like it may be watering down and obscuring.
Becomes a new
is.
age, more persona rather than a practice.
Yeah.
We try to stay with everything in life, just at the middle ground. You know, we love the history,
the
and
traditional side, the philosophy, the whole 9 yards. But then again, there's so many different aspects that you could pull from. I mean, just think about music. How many different styles of music is out there?
Right.
And you should never tell somebody, oh, that is horrible.
Right.
Because that's a different person's opinion. If it speaks to you in that way, just like with yoga, there's hot, strong, power yoga. But then there's also smooth, gentle, easy, therapeutic yoga.
Yeah.
So it just depends on what you're looking for.
Well, sure. Like, I know y'all may know her, but Elizabeth McDaniel was on the show. And I was intrigued because I saw the word yoga, but then I saw what she was doing, and I said, well, I've never seen that before. It was just interesting. So it was a totally different thing.
A fusion type yoga.
Yeah. So I guess, it gets into that territory where you hear this in a lot of religious language, where someone may go to, and I'll use Catholicism as an example. You'll have one particular church that says only an organ, only chanting, altar rails, this is the way it must be, Latin. And then you have another one that's got guitars, and they're practicing the same religion, but they're almost opposed to each other in the way they practice. I think about that with Buddhism a lot, because on one hand, I love the Tibetan traditions, and when I get immersed in that, I want to be very serious about that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I love the laughing Buddha, with the sack over his shoulder, playing with the children,
Yeah.
And so there's just those two different worlds, and it's like you said, you got to stand in the middle of the stream sometimes and
kind of absorb it all.
Yeah, you can be in both camps.
Yeah.
You don't have to go, this is the only way and this is the only way. You can enjoy
the middle path.
Yeah.
At the yoga center, I try to keep everything completely secular. So I don't go into the different deities, because that doesn't appeal to everybody.
Sure.
And I have to look at the whole group. But whenever I'm teaching, I teach in Sanskrit because I love the traditional, the old language. It's a dead language right now, and it has a lot of meaning. Whenever it was created, everything was in columns and in rows. So as you speak it, it vibrates different parts of your body and stimulates it. But I've also taught at a Catholic school. I'm not going to bring in
bring that up.
Sanskrit. It's just stretching and do a forward bend, something like that, but in a very safe way.
Yeah, I love that we're talking about all this, honestly. I don't really get to have a lot of these types of conversations, but it is wonderful. I'm sure you can tell when you have a student, and you can almost tell that that's appealing to them, right?
Yeah.
Where you go, this is a teaching moment where I can crack open a Sanskrit character and pour out what's in there. Because so many of us in our culture, you see the novelization of things like, I like spiritual jewelry, but in a way it can almost cheapen the ancient thing that it comes from, right? And people don't go any further than maybe I like that symbol. Well, you need to get into what does that symbol sound like? Where does it come from? What does it mean anciently, in the Upanishads and things like that. You go, okay, there's a whole thing here that you just right on the surface. You wanted to scratch
a much deeper level.
Get a little deeper on it.
Well, that must be pretty satisfying to be in that category where you can touch a broad scope of people.
It's nice to see the change from when we started in yoga to now.
So much more accepted.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I bet. I didn't even think of that. Right.
It was very a lot different at the beginning with open-mindedness of folks coming in.
Yeah, lots of judgments on it before knowing all the facts.
May I ask
about it.
what kind of things? I mean, I probably can guess, but I'm just curious. Like in that time period, because I remember there was a time period. I would say it was probably the mid '90s to maybe right around the turn of the millennium. There was sort of a jaded view of the New Age movement. And, everything. Anything that wasn't.
They're spacey.
It got thrown in you. If it was tie-dyed, it was New Age. But if it was Buddhism, it was New Age. It was anything that wasn't conservative.
Well, just like whenever people are talking about chanting.
Yeah.
A lot of times chanting has a negative connotation to it. So in the class, instead of saying, let's chant, it's here's a mantra, but I'm going to tell you what it is in English and I'll tell you what it is in Sanskrit. So for example, Shanti, Shanti, Shantihi is peace, peace, great peace. But I would never ask you to say it without knowing what it really means.
Right. That's something that I've tried to do with this show, believe it or not, is sort of build little bridges between those types of things, because I find that it's just understanding that causes lack of understanding, and I don't mean that in a negative way. If you don't know something, you don't know it.
Yeah.
And if you have an opportunity to share something just as simple as this word means this, so you might be hearing it and going, that's freaking me out.
Yeah.
Right? For whatever reason, I don't know why. But if you know that you're saying this, then it doesn't freak you out anymore, and that's where understanding begins, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and you were talking about symbols and things like that. There's the Om symbol in yoga. It kind of looks like a 30.
Yeah.
And when we're beginning and ending most classes, we might say the sound Om. But whenever I'm teaching in a beginner's class, I always let you know what Om means. If everything in the world was quiet, there was nothing on it, you could hear the hum of the living earth. Now that's a much simplified version.
Right.
But whenever I ask everybody else to do it, I let them know there's no tone, frequency, length, or volume that you have to use. And if you ever are uncomfortable saying Om, you're more than welcome to say home. That way you're still creating that vibration, like you're shaking loose that stagnant energy, making it work for you.
And that's part of opening the lungs and just preparing the body for the practice.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I love the word holistic, because in a way that's what you're telling someone, is that it's about sound, it's about vibration, but it's also about opening your lungs. It's got it's not just one part. It's not this symbol means this, and
not just doing it to do it.
Right. It's connected to everything that we're doing. Well, because really that's something, I don't know. I love these types of conversations, because I think that's something that is missing in the world. And maybe not the whole world, and I know that's not true, but like in our culture, is that view that one thing affects another thing. They're tied together. We tend to operate out here like everything's separate.
Skip the little things.
Yeah. Yeah, and so you don't think, well, my action that I just took or that word I just said had a vibration to it. I had a tone to it. I might not be saying Om, but I'm saying a word, and the way I say that word has an effect.
And you're creating that same vibration.
Yeah.
And you know what? One other thing I share with people is you've never really seen somebody walking around humming and that person be angry and mad.
Yeah.
It can change the emotional makeup from within just by humming.
It's funny. I remember this from when I was around 1995. I had similar time period. I guess I was getting into meditation and trying to understand. I was trying to understand and frame an experience I had, and I didn't really have a lot of information, so I was just seeking. So I discovered meditation, and I was vacuuming with an old red vacuum cleaner one time, and it had that vibration like identical, and it just hit me like right here.
Yeah.
And I remember I started saying Om at the pitch of the vacuum cleaner, and it really did begin to feel, gosh, someone's going to listen to this and go, okay, he's lost his mind.
But it is calming.
Yeah, it was calming, and I felt less separation from me and the object.
It's like tuning a guitar or instrument. Whenever you get that tune just right, you feel the vibration in your body, and it just feels right.
Yeah. So, wow. That's great. And so y'all are offering that to people.
Yeah,
you know, really, there's so much in there.
We have free meditation for the 15th year,
Yeah,
maybe.
pretty much.
What do you mean free? What is that? What do you mean it's free? Just y'all open the
Every
The
Tuesday.
community.
Yep.
Mhm. Every Tuesday and Thursday.
Really?
Yeah, and you don't have to have any experience. You don't have to stay sitting upright with your legs crossed like you see.
Yeah, you're not
Buddhas
talking
do.
about formal lotus position.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no.
you can if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can, but you could lie back, you could sit in a chair, whatever's most comfortable. And they're guided. They might have different takes for that particular day, depending on what they're working on.
Okay. How many people usually go to that? Is it different, or is there like?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it varies, but there's usually, around 10 folks or so. But
Really?
it could vary from, 2 or 3 one night to 20.
Is it guided or is it?
It is guided.
Yeah.
Our meditation instructor, her name is Leah Judwin. She's amazing.
Okay. Really?
Yeah, but Susan Kelso, which was a professor at McNeese, the
Okay. I
theater
thought
professor.
the name sounded familiar.
And her
Yeah,
husband, Peter
and her
Dart.
husband, Peter Dart. But Susan is the one who started the community meditation and having it free for the public. And you don't have to be a member of the yoga center. It's just something that we want to provide. We can
Yeah.
all use a little stress-free atmosphere.
Absolutely. Matt Young was on the show last week or the week before. I start to get everybody blends together the time frames, but we were talking about that, having a wading pool. I said, and all the other things in life, we have a doormat in front of our door so we can clean our feet off before we're in the house. You get out of a swimming pool. If there's grass, you have a wading pool to wipe that off your feet. Internally, we don't always take that time to shake that
wipe it
off
off,
before
yeah.
you go home. And that's, I don't know, for this world we live in, it's the pace. People don't have time for that, I don't have time for that. But we do make time for just about everything
Else, yeah.
and that's just a new habit. I think it's got to form. I have to do it too. But it's difficult.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about yoga. Your practice doesn't have to be at a studio. I'm at a point now where most of my practice is just done throughout the day.
Yeah, you're making...
You do 10 minutes here, just a stretch here or there.
I see.
It makes a difference in your body, and your mind,
Yeah.
and how you sleep, how you breathe. That was something I was going to bring up. Is if I could get you to take anything away from a yoga class, yoga postures are great. Focusing is wonderful. But breathing, to me, means the most. We hold our breath so much. We tend to only use about a third of our breath's capacity, which then affects us overall, emotionally, physically. And then what's happening to the organs, they're not getting enough oxygen. So if you could just breathe more efficiently, it's amazing what it could change.
Man.
Yeah, just breathing correctly.
Yeah. So many spiritual teachers talk about that too. Meditation teachers, but just to cycle the breath, to catch on to that. I know for me that just breathing has helped deal with conflict. It's usually the first thing I do whenever, we do that already. Yeah. If you get bad news or somebody you go, it's like a sigh or something. Yeah. But I've wondered sometime if that isn't your body like saying, okay, and here you need to cycle in. It's trying to catch you and capture
you're not breathing.
you.
Yeah, it's the natural way. But some folks hold that in, and it just becomes tension.
Yeah.
And gets to an unbearable state to where you have to take a huge breath, and you're almost gasping for air at that point.
Yeah. So now we jump over to Stellar Bean, right? So now y'all are in the driver's seat of Stellar Bean. You've been for about 2 years, you said?
Yeah, our kid is a manager there, and it's funny, whenever we first bought it, we had to learn the whole 9 yards of running a restaurant and a coffee shop, and it was a lot of learning to do and a lot of fun.
Was it fun?
It really was fun.
Some bumps in the road.
Yeah.
There were some not fun spots, but it's been fun overall.
Yes.
That's really good. It seems like people probably feel like it's just a natural fit, I bet.
Yeah. It just kind of flowed into it for us.
Yeah. What I love about it so much is at the yoga center, I have a captive audience. I'm talking, you're hearing me, and usually it's a much slower, deeper, calming voice. Mm-hmm. But then we come over to the coffee shop and we can have a conversation and we can go 90 miles an hour talking about whatever.
Yeah, it's like two different worlds, and you get to have both of them right there. You can experience.
It's a great balance.
Yeah, because you need both. I know that for me, the worst times for me are when I don't have that balance, and I can tell because I know I need it. Now, can I always take it? Maybe not. But I want to. The desire is there, and I think for me, it's always going to be just practice. I was actually talking to somebody today, and I said, everything's just practice. I mean, you just have to say, I'm going to practice this. It's not something that comes free. I mean, I used to believe that peace was easy, and I think it can be easy, but I'm coming to learn, for me anyway, in my own life, that it comes with work. It's not just something that I've almost stopped believing in an easy peace. I think, you have to, it takes effort, and I think we want things to be easy, but peace and harmony and tranquility, those are things you have to kind of...
It takes effort.
And that's what makes it worth it, too, is the little effort you put in to create it.
And you have to experience the bad to appreciate the good. If everything was great all the time...
Right.
Then you wouldn't see a difference. But you have to go through the peaks and the valleys to really appreciate what's the good part of your life.
Well, even those symbols, the Sanskrit symbols, you're talking about a sound that's a wave, know, it does that too. I'm sure y'all been seeing these things. They're going around the internet right now. They're really hot, but they've been out for a while. But these sand experiments where they feed the sound through.
Yeah.
It's
and
incredible.
They kind of bounce up.
Yeah,
and
make symbols and form
designs.
patterns. We were talking about that, and it gets back to sound. I said, we're walking around through art and design, and we don't know.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, it's everywhere. You're walking, these things that we're seeing formed in sand or water droplets or whatever, that's only the way that we can reveal it, but we're actually walking through the same patterns.
Yes.
Even on microscopic scales, or if you zoom out, you see the same patterns and effects.
Well, in nature,
Oh,
and
sure.
the Fibonacci, and amazing.
Yeah, that for me has brought me peace and calm. To be able to just say, okay, whenever things seem like they may be chaotic, you can sort of just look. That's why nature is so calming, I find, because you get in nature and you start to let yourself see those patterns and things like that, and it's comforting. It's ancient, and you go, this is okay. All this stuff that I've got going on, and maybe troubles or stresses that I'm carrying around that are just only alive in my mind. That stuff, if I can just let it go and get caught up in one of those patterns and contemplating something like that, it tends to take me back into a different space that I really probably need.
Yeah, it's those things that are truly complicated, nature and all these things that help you realize that your problems are really easy compared to the intricacies of the world.
Yeah, it just seems, I'm fascinated by what you said about Stellar Bean and the Yoga Center being two different kind of ways of communicating with people, because you meet people out in the world that perhaps can't communicate two different ways. It's like, no, I can only do one-on-one, or I'm not really good in groups, or maybe I'm only good in groups, or maybe you're not good at all and just want to be inside themselves and meditate or what have you. What's that like to go from one to the other kind of on the reg, between...
Yeah, for myself, I'm a Gemini, so having all the different personalities and things like that, it goes really smoothly for me. I find the Yoga Center to be such a safe place, so those who even have anxieties and they need to sit by the door to be able to see it, or they just need to leave, at least they're getting that touch of whatever they need for that moment, and then maybe it can grow and expand. Whereas at Stellar Beans, to me, it's Lake Charles's living room. So you and your friends could come and hang out. You could sit there all day. You could watch TV. You could listen to music. You could work on the internet. It's something that you could do on your own couch in your own living room, only it's the living room in Lake Charles.
Yeah, no, it's a good way to say that, the living room in Lake Charles. I like that. And you could see good friends.
You could let your guard down at both places. You can come to the Yoga Center and
feel comfortable.
And same thing at Stellar Beans. You can come there, feel comfortable, chat with old friends, meet new friends.
Yes.
It's a really cool synergy.
And you're right. I seem to I recall that when I would go there for meetings. I mean, because it's not a 100% private space, if there were multiple groups of people there talking, I guess I need to segue into, I have sort of an issue because I'm deaf in my left ear. And it's taken me years. I've been deaf for a long time. But being deaf on one side has created a habit that I wasn't aware of until later in life. And it's when I'm in a public space, all of my attention is, everything I'm hearing is just kind of right here. It's not here. Things over here just are bounced off. So as time has went by, what has happened is I've developed a hyper attention on this side of my body. So if I'm sitting in a restaurant or a group, if you're talking over here, I really I have to fight to keep my attention on what's in front of me.
Yeah.
And so my wife and I, she'll chuckle a little bit at me because I'll go, "Are you not hearing what they're talking about?" And she's like, I'm totally not even aware that they're even over there. And I'm going, all I hear is that.
You're getting that directed sound.
Yeah. And so at first, I for a long time, I didn't realize, why am I like this? Why do I pay so much attention to what's going on over here? Well, it's not a choice. Now I'm realizing I have to fight to direct that attention.
Yeah.
I say all that because at Stellar Bean, when I would go to meetings, I ended up sort of getting to know people because I would just eavesdrop without going, ooh, I want to hear their gossip. I would learn who was who, after going there for a while. And so it was like you said, I would meet new people just kind of inadvertently do that. And maybe want to go, hey, I wasn't listening, but I was, and go introduce yourself to people and make new friends.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
there's so many positive conversations going on.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You guys doing anything new since y'all have taken over? Like things that are just solely yours? I mean, because I know y'all honor the history of the places that you've had, but what about...
I know before they had artists hanging there, but we're doing a specific Stellar Artist of the Month.
Okay.
And if the artist wants to, they can have art shows and things like that.
Well, that's cool.
We've had a couple of theater shows with Black Market Theater and also Itinerant Theater.
Music.
Gosh, yes, music.
Poetry readings.
Readings.
We'll have Mac Neese will come in on occasion and do one of their classes, do poetry readings. Trying to bring in more local, small scale things where people can get out their art, get out their messages. It's just a variety of things.
Yeah, well, it seems like it's a good format for that, right?
Yeah.
Is that good for your business, do you find?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It is.
Yeah.
I know Amanda Gentry, she is an artist that has a lot of her art that stays at Stellar all the time. She put together a little art group where whatever project you're working on, bring it. We'll work on it together. Bring extra art pieces in case somebody else needs something. And it's just it was a free thing, but that was the way to do it. Bring extra art for other people too. Then we have Ernest Corville. He comes in every single day. He's always working on his art, but he uses our coffee as his medium.
Really? So he paints with it?
Yeah, with espresso.
So his art is always hanging up there throughout the year as well.
That's cool.
And for sale.
Really awesome stuff.
Yeah, and then we also, what we have started that I don't think that they had before was you can rent out Stellar Beans as an event.
Okay.
So, if you have, like we had a church group, youth church group that met as like an open mic night, had a little party, and they do that at Stellar Beans once a month. We also have something set up where if like you wanted something at the yoga center, say like a wedding, and you could have it on that side, and the reception on the Stellar Beans
really
side.
Cool.
And I'm an officiant, so
really, so you can have really I don't even know what to think about that. That's pretty smart.
It's a neat little setup.
Well, it gives you a great alternative to, especially if you're not a traditionalist, and you're going, hey, I want to do something unique and memorable. I mean, everybody wants to do something memorable and that they can carry with them in their mind. I mean, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Bring great with the yoga center. Things in the past we've done. We've had one of the first Earth Day events. It was many years ago, and we closed down the little alleyway next to the yoga center. Had many vendors. Had a couple of musicians come in.
Really?
Yeah, we got a certificate from the mayor, and then we had a concert in the yoga center right afterwards. It was really fun.
Yeah, we try to mix it up. Well, with the yoga center, we'll do special classes for Hobo Hotel. And
we do cat yoga, cats on the mat.
Really? Now, what's that? What's cat yoga?
We have a whole bunch of kittens, around up to 20, and they're running around. They're all from Hobo Hotel. And 100% of the proceeds for that goes to Hobo Hotel. I teach the class so that you can come and play with kittens and maybe take one home. And another event that we did was getting a lot of the members in the area to come and put together sandwiches. And we had a Buddhist monk come in from Lafayette, and we went and brought it to all the homeless shelters, and so that we could feed the public.
Yeah. How satisfying. I mean, I'm just listening to all of this, and I mean, I'm not going to lie, and if I'd be lying if I didn't say I'm a little envious. Because it's like such a great, it sounds like all the things you're talking about touch the community on so many different dimensions.
Oh, thank you.
Things like that are really easy to do for everyone. I mean, it's just finding a little thing and just doing it, getting, some positivity done.
And what you feel in your heart. And, something that I've explained to somebody else, say you're working with somebody who they work every nerve in your body, or your kids are driving you nuts, or in-laws, or whatever's going on in your life, instead of harboring all of those negative feelings, the thing that I find that gets you through the most is send that person loving kindness.
Yeah.
Because then in your heart you feel better, and then you're not letting them affect you anymore, and then life goes on.
Man, that is probably, it's the best advice, and it's the hardest.
Oh, yeah.
It really is. I mean, there's so much conflict in the world, and I talk about this, and I don't want to sound like I get caught in the negativity. I used to. And so what I was telling my son the same thing. I said, it's okay to talk about troubles in the world and really see them for what they are. Just make sure that you tie a string to the front door of the cave that you're walking in so you can get out, because if you don't, you're going to get stuck in there. And if you find somebody in there, you got a way out too.
Yeah.
Because what you just described, you can apply to things that are going on at work, at home, personal conflict, school, whatever. I recently have had a unfortunate conflict, and it's challenging because on one hand, it kind of reminds me of y'all's story with the yoga center. On one hand, I want to believe that I'm a man of peace, of nonviolence. I mean, all the high ideas that I believe in that I have to practice, right? But then when something really hard comes along and challenges you in every one of those things, and it starts flipping all of those levers, and it's touching you in all those ways, for me, it's like, do I want to throw all that stuff out the window and just go and be like everybody else? And I don't. So then I mean, I feel peaceful, but that advice you just gave, I have to transmute it, transform it, turn it in the alchemy, turning lead into gold. And so that takes work.
That's when you actually use your practice, everything you've been working
practice,
at.
right?
Yeah, and one of the biggest things that I always hear is, oh, you're a yoga instructor, you must never get mad.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Sure.
I mean, ask my husband.
Yeah, that's a reason to do yoga.
Yeah.
It helps you through those. You're still going to get mad, and you shouldn't beat yourself up for it, or whatever thoughts you have, because we are, middle ground people. There's going to be a little, negativity in your life and a little positivity, but hopefully it'll balance out.
But it's part of the practice. And, we talk about not judging. So it's, don't judge the yoga instructor for whatever's going on.
Yeah.
Look in your own heart and send out the loving kindness.
Yeah. That's what I've been trying to do recently with this particular situation, is like, how can I change it? How can I take, even if you can't, let's say you're in a conflict with a person, an individual, and that person's just not receptive to a peaceful solution. What I've had to do is say, well, okay, this circuit's not connecting, right? I mean, you can send loving kindness towards them in prayer and meditation, but whether they receive it is up to them. But can I do another thing to add something back into the world that sort of cancels that out? Okay, this conflict isn't ending, but I can take and do something else. And it may not be going to them, but it's going somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
There was this one of the, I can't remember, I think it's Saint Faustina or Saint Therese, I can't remember. One of their diaries, they asked if they could receive the leftover graces. They said, send me the grace that's rejected. And I loved that. I was like, rejected graces, because grace, the way I guess that was described, is like a force. It's being poured out on everybody, but whether you choose it, you don't have to receive grace. You don't have to take it, love anything. And so they just said, well, give me what's left over. And I loved that. I was like, that's the stuff I like. That's that dirty, on the ground, discarded. Here's this grace over here. Here's this love. Here's this blessing. Well, they don't want it, but I'll take it.
And there's a lot of that unwanted grace out there. So many people reject things that could help them for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And but when you're open to it, it really flows in, and you can accept it a little easier.
And have you ever been around somebody who was Debbie Downer? Like, they complained about everything.
Oh God,
and
I've been that person.
Well,
Yeah,
and then
I think
you
we all
realize,
have.
Yeah, we all have. But you realize that you don't want to hang out with that person so much because they bring you down.
Sure.
But then you come along to this person who finds positivity. They find the goodness in people. That's the people that you gravitate toward. And so you look at that, that's an energy that you're putting off. So think about yourself and what's going on inside. We all have issues and challenges, and some are more than others, but we can't ever compare our challenges and our issues. But it's up to you. That's part of the practice, is to change that mindset and follow it up with positivity and contentment within your heart.
Have y'all had any experiences? I mean, and you can, if you can share them without revealing, anything too private for whoever you may be talking about. Have you had any experiences where somebody a customer or somebody a student has changed your life, and like you went, wow, that I learned from them?
Probably. At this point, there's countless. But
really?
Yeah.
I know with my the members at the yoga center, I learn more from people with challenges than people who are super smooth and easy. I've worked with somebody who is paralyzed from the waist down,
really?
Came in a wheelchair, did yoga with them, and
in a regular class.
Yeah, in a regular class with everybody else with full function. And to me, it's seeing those little things and how they change, and then what I learn from them, and then what they're learning from me, and it's a community effort there. I know whenever we first bought Stellar Beans, we had a very, very challenging person who worked for us. And I had never fired anybody in my life.
Yeah.
And this person...
It just was that down.
It was that bad, and it just happened. And I think I cried the whole night, the whole next day. It crushed me. But like I was mentioning to you, I could get mad at that person for the way that they acted, or I could let it go and just send them goodness, because obviously they needed it.
So interesting. This touches right into, I think I posted it because I was watching it last night, a documentary from 2012 called When the Dragon Swallowed the Sun. And it's basically like, have y'all seen that?
No, I haven't seen it.
It's really good. I mean, it really is. It's a historic documentary about basically the Chinese invasion of Tibet and like what led up to it, and like the suffering of the people. It's pretty, to be quite honest, I wouldn't say it's for everybody if you have a hard time seeing like brutality.
Well, I love the Tibetan culture, and we've watched many things on it. It was unbelievable how that culture was kind of decimated
when they're still suffering over there. But what really got me, that stuck with me last night, and it goes into what you're talking about this remorse of having to do something that feels so negative. And there was he's old now, but he was one of the their military commanders that was charged with keeping the Chinese out of Tibet. I mean, they were fighting them with swords and spears. You know? And he talked about how they had. He was proud of them for trying to defend their homeland, but then he started talking about how many Chinese soldiers that they killed, and he just started weeping. And I thought, that, and I bring this up on the show all the time, it's just one verse from the Tao Te Ching that just sticks out like a knife in my mind, where it says, a man enters conflict as though he's entering a funeral. And for me, that's what I saw in that guy's face. And it's what you just said, even in that capacity of having to do something where you're like, God, why can't this work out? And you have this really deep remorse for it, and brings you to tears. I mean, that you have to resort to something that you go, could be avoided.
And I'm sure it's kind of like a parent having to spank a child.
Yeah.
Which I know not a lot of kids get spanked anymore, but I know growing up I did.
Sure,
I was so
too.
good I never got spanked. My parents might disagree with that.
No, I understand. I mean, I have, that's an interesting subject. I don't talk about it a lot, but when I think about it, I don't really have to spank my children. I can't even remember. I can't recall the last time that's happened.
We had a great kid, and we stopped at one because everyone warned us, your next one's going to be, horrible. And we're like, you know what? We got you. We're
this kid, potty trained herself, took herself off the bottle, would put herself in timeout, if she did something wrong. So why break that record?
Yeah, you're just stuck with it, right? Yeah. I get that. Kids, I have 3, and they're all over the place. I mean, as far as who they are, I think when you have kids and you raise them the same way, you give them the same foundation to some degree, you're pretty consistent, and they turn out so differently. It for me, it just reveals just that unique individuality, and it shouldn't be squashed. I mean, to some degree, you have to celebrate it.
You really have no control, and you shouldn't try to put control. We tried with not try to put control, but try to let our daughter have her freedom to be herself and to grow to
and experience
who they are
different
now.
Things, and we don't want to squish any of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would say I've tried to be that way with all of my kids, but I'm seeing it the most right now in my 15-year-old. He just by allowing him to become and experience pains for becoming. Who is he? Who is he going to be? What does he believe? How's he want to live his life? What is he interested in? By letting him do that, there's pains that come with that because, people are not always friendly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what he's become through that by not trying to direct him too hard. I mean, I'm like, wow, he's just becoming a beautiful person. And I kind of, again, use the word envy. Sometimes I go, man, I'm jealous a little bit.
Yeah.
I wish I had that confidence when I was your age.
Yeah, 15.
Kids nowadays have, they're able to express themselves and become who they are a little easier than I think would in our culture. Our kid has some unbelievable talent in music and art and television, but she'll have struggles through different schools just because of her beliefs and things that she likes.
Dr. Susan Kelso, she had some words, a quote that she had told me that it just cut straight through was, no matter who your kid is, you have to set the foundation so they know what to rebel in later.
And I'm happy, I know it.
You've probably heard me mention filming videos, building websites, creating logos, or building brands on this podcast. Well, there's a good reason for that. I'm a brand builder, and my brand is Parker Brand Creative Services. My team and I have built countless brands in the Gulf Coast region, and a lot of our work in the travel and tourism industry is experienced across the country and honestly the whole world. We have our specialties: web, logo, package, and whole brand design, as well as video production and photography. But the reality is, we function as a full-service advertising agency to businesses that don't really mesh well with larger advertising agencies or just don't want to have in-house creative departments. But don't listen to what I say. Just go to our website, parkerbrandup.com, and take a look at what we do. We're a show it, don't say it team. Okay, you should definitely say it too, but you know what I mean. That's parkerbrandup.com. We think sideways, we push forward, and we'll get your brand up.
So take this, you've earned it, a melody in chorus.
Jonah, it's complex because, when you say you're gay, that's typically because of a sexual attraction, right? But he's not a sexually active person.
Yeah.
So even he says, well, he's not in a relationship. He's never been in a gay relationship.
Yeah.
So he's never had sexual encounter of any kind, but he knows that who he's attracted to.
Yeah.
I mean, and how he feels.
You know how your heart
how his heart
whenever
feels.
you see somebody.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he knows that. And so it's complex because on one hand you could say he's just asexual. He's just not anything.
Yeah.
But he said, physically maybe, but I know inside what's going on inside of me. And that's when I find it hard to have that conversation with other people, because they're like, oh, that could be anything. And they want to just throw it out the window. And it's like, when you've raised a child, as y'all know, you raise a child, you see them from day one, you watch them, you pick up things, you're with them. That what's coming out of them, who they're becoming, is who they are.
Yeah.
Especially when you're the primary influence in their life. For Jonah, we've been the primary influence, and it's not like didn't wake him up and when he first started reading, he said, no, say here's a bunch of homosexual literature and you need to read I didn't do any of that. I just normal life.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the culture. I mean, there's people say it's the culture invading and all that, or it's not that. And I think for parents out there who are struggling with that, because they do, I think there's a struggle for some people between just loving their child.
Yeah.
But you know what? To me, I know that people they put too many labels on things. That's the way that I feel. So if you're gay, if you're straight, if you're rich, if you're poor, if you're large or if you're small, and I mean, why not just be?
Right.
Yeah, just
and
be
if
like what
tomorrow you're being something else, it's still you.
Right, you're still you.
Yeah, just be you.
Mickey Smith was on the show, and I guess I don't know where he got it from or if he came up with it, but he said we're human beings,
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
not human doings.
Right.
We're human beings, so we need to be.
Yep.
And I loved that, because I was like, oh, I've never really thought about that before. It seems like it's right in my face, but it lines up with what you're saying.
Yeah, we all want to be, and so let other people be as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're human beings on a journey in this world, in this existence together.
Material world.
Right. And I can see, I can see things. I know things I've heard, because I probably like y'all, you have probably your toe in a lot of different things, and for me it's that way with my spiritual beliefs. And I don't, again, going back to words, sometimes I don't even like saying my beliefs. I don't even know if that's the right word really, but I'm kind of all over the place, you know. And I try to represent that even in here, that some of what I practice falls into the Christian camp, some of it falls into the Buddhist camp, and I would say those are the two big silos, but the other parts are whatever comes in that feels like truth and resonates with my heart, right?
Absolutely. That's
pluck and eat from all the different trees. What I hear is that when you have a child like my son, for instance, who identifies as gay, he says he's gay, someone would say, well, it's all that stuff that you practice. You know, that's not giving him the right foundation.
We've gotten that quite a bit.
That's why I tell that, because I wondered if y'all have gotten
and
that.
We've even felt guilty, you know, throughout time, because we're made to feel guilty about different things.
Yeah. There's a lady, and I won't say who she is, who revealed some information about herself. And we were on Facebook I had posted some information about this because there was some kind of a hate crime that I'd shared. And it was just a real tragedy. And she said, and again, I'm using the word she here. She said, oh, well, I was born with male genitals.
Oh, really?
You know, and she said my parents had a choice to make. You know, it was like both. And the doctors told them, it's your choice.
Wow.
You know, and so her parents chose to remove the male parts. Now, had she never told me that, I never would have known. I don't look at her any differently.
Yeah.
She's identified as female her whole life. She was raised as female. Her revealing that didn't change the core of who she is. Socially, she is accepted as a female. She doesn't tell everybody this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when I read that, I thought it just really cracks into the heart of that.
Yeah.
You know, I thought, well, maybe how many people are reading this Facebook post? 20? Mm-hmm. How many people does she know? Way more than 20.
Yeah.
And not all of them know this information. But I don't know. She was very forthcoming about it and was like, you know, I tell people that. She was saying I would tell people that I dated, you know, that this. So they understand, you know, that our chromosomes aren't in alignment with what you think you see on the outside.
Yeah,
but this is the life, you know, this is who I am.
Yep.
I don't know. That kind of stuff cuts right in, and you go, this conversation that is upsetting so many people has way more to it than one side or the other.
Yeah, it's not a black and white situation. There's so many layers and levels to
like
understanding. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it all, you know, teeters on just understanding and letting folks be who they are.
Sure. No, I totally agree. My son we went through some hard times. I don't know. You know, I'm sure every parent, you know, a lot of tears.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
People can be cruel.
Yeah.
Cruel just for not understanding. It goes back to just the language, you know. You just don't understand something, you just begin. I still can't quite figure out what that is about our species that makes us that way when we don't understand something. I get not understanding something and being a little apprehensive.
Yeah.
And fearful. Go, okay, this is territory. I mean, look, you go to the moon and you're going, I've never been to the moon before. I'm about to step out of this spacecraft. Am I going to fly off? Is my helmet going to, you know, anything new and that you've never done is going to have this sense of anxiety and apprehension to it.
Yeah.
But just straight out shut off fear, I've never understood or not fear,
not
anger and hate almost.
Yeah,
where does that come from?
I think it's a pack mentality, because you take some folks that are real angry and adamant about their beliefs and you get them by themselves and you talk to them, and all of a sudden you're having a way better conversation. You're seeing a little bit of their view, they're seeing a little bit of your view, but then you get off in different, you know, they may get in their group again and their unified voice is angry again.
Yeah.
It's like, why can't you be the individual in your group and still, you know, promote what you're promoting, but do it with love?
Yeah.
Try to explain yourself.
It's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, they go off at the judgments. It's always a judgment. Everybody has an opinion, and that's fine, but have an educated opinion.
Yeah.
Like, know why you feel this way and why you think that way.
Yeah. No, I agree. We actually, that's interesting. We just had this conversation with my son. You know, he's not a huge fan of our current president, you know, and he can go off about it. I mean, he's young, but he has a lot of opinions about it, and I understand his opinions. But the other night we were talking about it, and he was getting a little heated, and I said, okay, I was like, I get what you're saying, is it, but tell me 5 things, like 5 specific things that you don't like. And I wasn't saying I disagree with him, but I was trying to challenge him to cool down, because somebody's going to challenge you.
Yeah.
If you're going to say an opinion, somebody's going to ask you why. And if you can't tell them why, they're going to attack you and call you ignorant. I said, you need to be able to defend what you believe in, at least have some working knowledge of it.
Yeah. Have an idea of what you believe and some facts.
Yeah, have some facts. I mean, just do a little bit of research.
Yeah.
You know, we have access to so much information. You know, for me, I've always kind of felt foolish when I discover something that I go, God, it was so easy to just look this up and I didn't do it. I was so ignorant to it. You know?
Or believed what somebody else told you as fact whenever they haven't done the research.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the other thing about social media, that it's a blessing and a curse. I mean, you can use that tool, and again, that's kind of where this show was born from, is like, okay, there's this tool out here, and I'm not enjoying it anymore. It's not being used. It's used to do what you said, which is to make a big mob mentality and just sort of blast out things that were harsh or negative.
Yeah.
And those things we hear. I mean, you go a car accident outside and everybody's going to turn their head.
Yeah.
And so
and it's all over the internet now.
Yeah, it's just like splat, you know. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, well, if you can retool that, you know, maybe make it more of a blessing and just say, okay, set a rule for myself that I'll only share something negative if there's actually in the
a learning process.
Yeah, right. Like, hey, this is something bad. You need to be aware that this happened so we can change it. Yeah, that's the difference. I mean, because that's not what I was seeing out there. It was just more, how mean can I be? Yeah, how hateful can it be? How many nasty words can I say? Or what funny name can I call somebody? You know, it just took over.
We grew up with the beginning of the internet, and it seemed so, and it was awesome, and it still is. It's just not being used as the correct tool. Maybe one day it'll level out, but it's so vast and so easy to create false things.
Oh, sure.
So it didn't turn out, I think, the way that we all hoped it would.
You know, when we first got married, we had a real estate company together.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Carl's dad was the broker, and we had our real estate licenses and things like that. And that's whenever you had to use dial-up, and you had to go through all of these things just to post the pictures of your house. It was a nightmare and took forever. But
and I'd started web building way back then whenever it was hand-coded. And
he's built all of our websites.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I've never really did it pro. I did it for a few folks, but I think in '96 when we opened the real estate company, I started building our website, which was very elementary at the time, but in a year or so we had it where you could search for properties. I was even doing 360 I think they're called iPix tours.
Yeah.
The fish eye camera. Did those, and then we were doing the real estate for a couple of years. I was doing the construction primarily.
But had your license.
Had the
He's
license.
got his broker's license too.
Yeah.
Wow,
So we went from that to doing real estate, but then I started a full color real estate magazine through that by taking
Before
the photos.
the other one had color. We had color first.
Okay.
So we did that for about 3 years, and that was the highest stress point of our life was real estate. That was not the career for us.
It was like feast or famine. It was very politically based.
Yeah.
And it was during the downturn of the economy, right at the 2000 type area. And
we were newly married in '96.
And so you're under that pressure cooker, right?
So that's also what kind of led us to yoga. It's like the pressure cooker just kept going on. We're doing real estate. I was doing the magazine, and the magazine was doing great, but it got about 3 years in, and the pressure, I was like, you know what? Let's turn the switch off, and we did that, and then it turned into.
It was like the universe opened up and said, "Oh, this is the direction."
I love hearing that.
And my back was like a really big turning point for me.
Well, you were
hurting my back.
That changed your situation.
Yeah, I was doing the magazine stuff during that, and that kind of shut me down. I went through depression and. But the yoga is what kept him going on that side, and then he started doing vinyl art and making signs and things like that, and it was like his passion came back, so it was yoga and art.
Yeah.
And then from there
to where we are now.
And Now we're
So many
caffeinated
twists and
and
turns.
relaxed. all
Yeah,
at the
that's
same
what
time.
that's the other thing I noticed. I was like, that's an interesting balance. You got the caffeine and then the total relaxation.
You know, when we first bought Stellar Beans, it was really funny because I would call my mom and man, Mom, I keep getting these flutters in my heart. Like, is it anxieties? Maybe I need to meditate more and do more yoga. And I would, but I'd still have the flutters in my heart. It was too much caffeine.
Too much caffeine.
I had to cut back.
I've actually had to cut back too because my blood pressure was really high.
Yeah.
And I mean, this job is pretty stressful. I mean, you talking about the magazine.
Yeah.
I'm relating to everything you say because that's really kind of all we do. It's the same thing. You're on deadline every day.
Yeah.
I mean, 100 deadlines a day. Just,
Weren't you in signs as well?
yeah, for years ago.
I
That's
did
right,
signs
yeah.
for about 10 years as well. During,
You know what? I remember that.
I think we may have worked on a few projects.
Where was
there.
I at when you had that? I remember that. I must have been.
I was at Signco for quite a few years.
But didn't you do something where y'all refurbished, like y'all would take?
Yeah, we
Refurb
refurbed.
sign?
That's what I started doing after
Okay.
Signco. I started doing that.
What was
on
it
my own.
called?
I called it Smart Signs.
Smart Signs. Okay, I
Yeah.
do remember that. I can't
And you know
remember
where the
I was at.
roundabout was?
Yeah.
That's where his office was. So we were all right
yeah,
there.
I do remember that. Okay.
I did. I started out doing refurbishing signs, but it turned into online decal sales. It totally blew my mind how well that did. So I primarily did that with sign stuff.
I see. So y'all had the yoga. Did you have the yoga? Y'all didn't have. You did have it.
Yeah, we had the yoga center
Okay.
through all that as well.
Yeah, I do remember that. I must have. What year was that?
I closed that about 3 years ago now.
Yeah, maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
3 or 4 years ago.
Because I think I was working at one of the ad agencies in Lake Charles. I just can't remember where, but I just do remember seeing you post about it and stuff. So I
Seen
didn't
that come across.
Yeah, I do. I remember that. I totally forgot about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it was really cool because we have a dog, a Cavalier King Charles, and he's the biggest baby, biggest lap dog, and he could go to work with Carl. His dad would go in there, and it was a really nice atmosphere.
Yeah.
And what's great about Stellar Beans is you could bring your dog in there too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dog
Okay.
friendly.
Yeah, dog friendly.
What makes that possible? I mean, I'm just asking. Is it just saying, "Hey, you're dog
Well, yeah,
friendly"?
there's no rules other than the proper sanitary rules. It can't go in the
dog can't
behind
go in
the
the
counter.
kitchen or
I
But,
see.
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
but pretty much any restaurant can
And we
offer.
have a leash law, so they have to be
Okay.
on leashes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm ignorant to that.
Well,
Yeah,
and
well,
Stellar
we were
Beans-
too because I thought there was rules that you can't have.
Yeah.
animals
I
in
would
these
have assumed the
places.
same thing. That's why I asked that. Yeah.
And really, it was that way before, so we just wanted to keep it that way. So
Yeah,
our
oh, it
dog can
was.
come to work too.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's something else that you see in the world, and again, it's one of those things that we get better, right? You see service animals, and you see things like that, and I used to never see that. You said maybe be blind. you
Yeah.
know? And the only time I'd ever see that was in a movie. If I'm being honest, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, you just see
I
blind
was never
folks.
exposed to that. It was just sort of a trope, you
Yeah.
know, that you
Yeah.
go, oh yeah, seeing eye dog.
It's
Yeah.
it's becoming a little more common, but yeah, I could see why fancy restaurants don't want animals in there. But our spot is cool.
The therapy dogs and security dogs and things like that, they're trained, specially trained, because our dog is like one bracket away from being able to be a therapy dog.
Oh,
But,
wow. Okay.
we just haven't had time to continue everything. But I mean, it's something that's special, and it brings a smile to people's faces. There's a group in town called Dr. Dogs.
Oh, I've not heard of that.
Yeah, and Susan Kelso and her dogs
Okay.
were in it. And so they would go around to the libraries and to the hospitals and things like that, especially to hospice and stuff.
Yeah.
And so we want to eventually do that with the dogs at Yoga Center. And like I would only let the therapy dogs be in it because I know what kind of dogs they are.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at that possibly being one of our next functions.
I love that y'all can just plug things in like that.
Yeah, I
It's
do a
fun.
Pink Floyd
this is the
black light
funnest.
yoga. Been doing that for probably 6 years now, but
Really?
I love Pink Floyd, and
We call it Dark Side of the Mat.
Oh, that's so cool.
I try to. A lot of my classes, music is a big aspect of it, mood music, and
And it's all instrumentals.
Yeah, all instrumental Pink Floyd
From
stuff.
Pink Floyd. And we're big Pink Floyd fans. Our kid was even born to a Pink Floyd song.
Wow.
yeah, our doctor had Pink Floyd playing, not by our request.
It just
happened-
was.
happened.
Just so happened to be playing.
But
so.
yeah, we were the first people in almost the country that had black lights. And I mean, there were a couple other places.
In
but
your yoga studio.
yeah, absolutely. The only place in Louisiana that had black light yoga. And then now, since it's just getting word of mouth,
now you'll
people are
see
doing
Pink Floyd yoga. At all different
That's really cool. I like the idea. I mean, I don't know. Again, it's just such a cool thing to know that you guys have created enough space in your life to allow yourself to have ideas like that. You can say, hey, you know, what if we did this? And then you have the capacity to just make those things happen and see how they work.
Yeah.
You know, you still have this sort of canvas. Even after all these years, sometimes a business sort of becomes a thing and gets sort of stiffened up.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, this is the way it is. This is all we do. And
that's
doesn't
all it
grow.
is, yeah.
But y'all are pulsing.
And we try a lot
We
of
like to
things.
change and evolve. We
Yeah.
know everything is temporary. I mean,
And not everything works out perfectly either.
Sure.
everything evolves into the next thing. So if you do what you're working on now to your best, you know that next thing you're starting off on a good foot.
Yeah.
That's true.
And anyone could really achieve anything they set their mind out to. You don't need a bunch of money or even connections. You just have to get out there and do it yourself. Get it done.
And you have to be flexible too. You can't be so hardcore set in your mind that you're not able to flex and go with the way that life is. If you have that goal so down there and you're not willing to give in any direction, then you're just going to be faced with heartache. You have to be flexible.
You're not going to be able to do yoga either.
Right?
Yeah, you won't be-
You have to be
Because
flexible.
You have to be flexible and not rigid. I mean,
But actually, you don't have to be flexible to do yoga. But
You don't?
I'll
To
get
start.
you there.
to start. I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Eventually, you sort
You'll
of
just eventually
pliable.
become, yeah. But we have folks, that aren't the most flexible, but they're practicing, just as hard as the person standing on their head or doing a really impressive back bend or something.
I had a lady in last night's class, and she has a frozen shoulder. So, of course, she can't sweep her arms up to the
Right.
sky. So she just opens up. There's plenty of modifications and variations to suit each body's needs.
See, I like that. So somebody can come to a class. Well, let me back up. We're all over. I know I'm going to jump back into yoga here, but I'm just very fascinated. Like, so if somebody comes in, do they have to go to a beginner class, or is there different levels? Is that how it works?
I strongly suggest going to the beginner's class, mainly because the other classes are set up more like a flow. You're going from this pose to the next with the
so people
instructor's
know
guide.
it's a different vibe.
Yeah.
We have our
so-
setup more traditional, where you go through the basic
And I
beginner's
take
class.
steps, and this is how you breathe, and this is another type of breath work, and this is another one, and we
see.
take time with each one, and then with the different poses. Like if you have high blood pressure or glaucoma, you're not going to have your head below your heart because that brings too much pressure to your eyes. So I teach all of the variations and modifications through the beginners classes, but even in the other classes give out different little options too, so you have different places to go.
So I have a really big question. I mean, and maybe it's not that big. You'll probably answer it just without effort. But so how does this change you guys spiritually? I mean, from where you started, meditation, yoga because of, physical, then you come together all these years later. How has it, spiritually, what has it done for you?
I know for myself, it's made me a whole lot more focused on all of us. We were talking about it being one. Whatever I say, it is the butterfly effect, the ripple, and how it affects you, and then you go off to the next person.
Yeah.
I know that I was really, really strong and devout in Christianity growing up, and went to a Catholic school almost all my life except for high school.
Yeah.
And we had quite a few bumps in the road because, well, to be honest, they wouldn't marry Carl and I. Why?
Sure, I
Because he
understand,
moved
yeah.
around a lot, and I went to Our Ladies, and that priest wouldn't marry us.
Wouldn't marry you,
So
yeah.
we had to jump through hoops. But at our 10th anniversary, we got remarried within the Catholic Church by a priest, and got to go on another honeymoon. And then for our 20th anniversary, we didn't get remarried again, but we went on another honeymoon. And so it's little things like that of our journey as far as what is speaking to us in our heart and our foundation and what we want to move forward with. What would you say?
Well, mine started out, I was Catholic, but not real. I never a practicing Catholic. We moved around quite a bit when I was a kid. I went to a couple of the Sunday schools. But when I got older into high school, I discovered Buddhism, and particularly Zen Buddhism.
Yeah.
And so I started practicing that, and it was more rigid, where I wanted to follow all the rules, all the
Sure.
all the different processes they had. But from there, then I discovered Hinduism and
Sure.
some of the other things. And through our yoga training, we were required to study all these different religions.
Yeah, sure.
Jainism.
We had to know about
and-
each of them.
Yeah.
And so it started just piquing my interest on how there's so many connections
Yeah.
between them. And then if you connect all those things and you take all those connections, then you may have something that means a little bit more than each one just telling you what to do. So it morphed from being, considering myself a Buddhist or maybe a Christian Buddhist to being, I don't know, a gumbo. Where I try to just pull in and try to find the goodness in whatever it is. And so I think there's a little bit of truth in all of it, but I don't think that any particular thing has the full truth.
What's interesting to me is I have this picture behind you of the Dalai Lama and Thomas Merton and Dalai Lama. And I love that picture because one, you've got two people who are deeply soaked in their traditions. I mean, you're talking about a Trappist, Catholic Trappist monk. So deeply saturated, and then you have the Dalai Lama, head of the Tibetan,
the highest you can get.
Highest you can get. And yet I love it because they stand there smiling, and when you read both of their works, they're talking in their traditional languages, but they're both talking so often about the same thing, and they always get back to love and compassion, and those core things that rise up, those things just reveal to me, I guess, the face of God, and that's why I love learning about other traditions, because it's kind of like somebody my dad spoke Spanish fluently, and so when he heard someone speaking Spanish, it was very easy for him to go, oh, this is what they're saying. I feel like that now, probably y'all do too, when you hear someone from a tradition speaking, you're going, oh, I understand what they're saying in these multiple dimensions.
Right.
Absolutely.
Did you get to go and see the Dalai Lama whenever he came to New Orleans?
No.
The coolest story, Carl and I did get to go see him.
Really?
And so we got online, he got us tickets, and so we get there, and there's 30,000 people. I don't even know.
It's filled to the gills.
And so he and I are sitting right here. We could see the Dalai Lama down there. We were pretty close. It was nice. And then 3 people came and sat right next to us. And it was the owners of Stellar Beans.
Really?
So we're not only like neighbors where we were before we bought it from them, but then we were neighbors sitting watching the Dalai Lama.
And we were friends before that, but that really little trip meeting really connected us.
Some synchronicity there.
Yeah, there's so many connections through life. If you're patient, you'll see the connections take hold. Like wanting to have the space next to the yoga center. 10 years later, now it's happened. Or just, different things in life.
A manifestation of your desires.
Patience.
Yeah, that's kind of what I have conversations about karma with friends and different people, because that word gets thrown around in society a lot. And I used to not care, but now I've gotten to where, as I get older, I try to, and that's just going to sound terrible, but I try to educate someone and go, well, you're saying luck is what you're saying. You're not saying karma.
Yeah.
I said, what y'all are describing right there is actually karma. It's the results of actions coming together and making something happen. It's the accumulation of everything and how that plays out into the next, karmic cycle.
And you're doing it from your heart. You're not doing it to get something out of it or get something in return besides, love and peace and compassion.
Yeah.
The universe will level everything out. So you have to keep your balances level, or at some point, sometimes it's extreme awesomeness that happens, but typically you'll kind of hit the hard things. And
Carl and I talk a lot about the 80-20 rule, and it's where 80% of the time you do everything along the line the best that you possibly can. 20% of the time, have fun, splurge. So if you're like on a hardcore diet, 20% of the time, have that chocolate cake. Enjoy it. Enjoy life, because we're always working. We're working hard. A lot of people don't even have a job that they even remotely like. Carl and I, gosh, I'm so in love with him and our job and our life. It's amazing.
That's awesome. That's beautiful, actually. There's a lot of people, you wonder if they would say the same thing.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
You meet folks, and you can sometimes sense there's a discord and unhappiness. I'm not going to say that I've never been one of those people. Again, getting back to the magazine, and I talk about this on the show a lot, the profession that my wife and I have chosen seems to be escalating as far as the cycles of how fast we have to do things.
Yeah.
Well, that's a wheel we're not so sure that we want to run at that pace.
The technology, I mean,
Yeah.
you're always having to stay up on it.
Yeah.
I don't envy that part of that. I loved the web building whenever I was doing it, but that had changed so quick. From
yeah, it
96
has.
to 2000 to 2001. Every year you had to learn a new language or
Sure.
a new set of tools, and that's where I got with it. I was like,
Yeah, well, it gets almost unmanageable. I don't know who. Maybe it was somebody on the show, but it said the world's sort of outpacing us and what we were designed as people to do. There. If you go back and start, well, y'all went and had no electricity, no devices. Anytime somebody does something like that, you start to feel the cycle settling back into you.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a simple 2-day silent retreat, or even a day, or a sit at the beach for 4
Yeah.
hours and listen to the waves, you're going to feel. At least me, I can only speak for myself, but you begin to feel things cycling back, and you go, okay, this is more the pace.
yeah, you can relax again. You know
Yeah.
things are gonna continue on.
Yeah, you try to get plugged back into, emails and deadlines and things that work on something outside of that, and it just begins to feel less and less normal.
You always have to recharge.
Yeah,
I highly agree, though, that you do need to unplug. Like if you can, on weekends, a couple of hours, just get away from your phone, get away from your TV, get away from all of the information coming at you, whether it's positive or negative. It's a lot of stuff coming at you at once.
If you listen, if you do that, you're going to find information in you.
Yeah.
That's what I find is like, oh, there's something else rising out now, that wants to be born.
And that's where all the good ideas usually end up popping out of.
It does.
Music or, whatever ideas you
Different
have.
passions. I know whenever Carl and I did our yoga teacher training in New Mexico, our gurus were Lex Gillen and Stan Hafner. And in the evening, whenever we finished our classes up and things, and it was in the mountains, and it was beautiful out there. Yes, it was gorgeous. And once you left that particular building to go back to your cabin, it was called Noble Silence. And so for the first, 2 or 3 days, I couldn't stand Lex. I was so mad at him for not letting me talk. I'm a talker.
I do not like this.
Yeah, and I would be writing it on my notepad. I do not like him, and I do not like the fact that I cannot talk. And then by about the third night, fourth night on in, I was like, you know what? I get what he's saying now. I understand. So we need to have those quiet times, even if it's just 1 minute a day. Most of us have smartphones. You could put on a little timer and have it chime at you, but if you could just sit there and breathe, and if your mind is too scattered, maybe you count to 10 on the inhale and 10 on the exhale, and just find that within and find that peace.
Yeah.
There's so many things. I know. God, you're right there with what I mean. It's practice. You have to make that time, because I've told somebody the other day, that little table out there, it's nothing much, just a little space. But for a couple of years, we had gotten rid of the table outside, and so we were just in here all day. And I told my wife, I said, we need to put that picnic table out there and make a little space. And so now I keep a little package of incense sticks. Okay. The time it takes to burn one of those sticks, that's the time I'm going to take.
Oh, that's perfect.
You know what I mean? It's such a cheap, it's a $1.50 device.
Yeah.
And there's 100 in a pack or whatever. And so how hard is that? And if I make that rule for myself, it's like, okay, I can do this. I don't have to sit there and watch my clock. I don't need a device. I can light it and just wait.
Create a little ceremony or ritual for yourself.
Yeah.
5 minutes, 10 minutes, and just disconnect.
Yeah, we need that space. God, this has been fun.
Oh, yes, it has.
Have y'all listened to the show and you know about the fishbowl?
I've heard about the fishbowl. Yeah.
Okay, so with you guys, I guess what I would like to do is you get to draw 3 questions out of there, and we'll just talk about those 3 instead of each one of you drawing 3. I figured y'all could draw it together and we'll just have a conversation. So I'd like to see. I'm curious to see if y'all have the same answers or different answers.
Okay, do you want to go first?
Yeah. So just draw one at a time.
Just draw one at a time. Yeah.
Kind of see what we got. All right. Business and peace, money and love, stuff and happiness. Can these things work in harmony?
Absolutely.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, and they have to. If you want a sustaining life, you gotta find the balance and all that.
It's the yin and yang.
Money and love is probably, well, I don't know. All of these are pretty. You have to work at them. Business and peace is you have to be at peace with yourself to make right judgments. Money and love, you have to realize that those are 2 separate things. So you could put a little, cut those in half.
Yeah.
And stuff and happiness, might as well cut those in half too, because stuff definitely won't get you happiness. But happiness, is the key.
You know, with let me see, with the stuff and happiness, the more you look at other people, the more you're comparing. The grass isn't always greener on the other side.
This is
Maybe
true.
the grass is greener on your side to other people. So the more you compare yourself, the more you're going to find things to be compared, and you're never going to have that happiness. So if you look around and you're grateful for the things that you have, then that's all that matters. To me, money and love, yeah, put a line through it, because, I mean, Carl and I don't argue often, but in the beginning, it was probably
Yeah, it's
always
usually
about money.
money, yeah.
And then whenever you realize, hey, we're on the same side, we love each other, then that's whenever you start working together for the ends and the means. In business and peace, I mean, gosh, we're yoga.
Yeah.
And coffee.
Yeah, you found a way to do
Yeah,
that.
I guess that actually can be meshed up pretty well.
Yeah.
can, yeah.
The stuff and happiness thing. I think that, I have things that I own that make me happy.
Oh, yeah.
And most of the time, the things that I own that make me happy are things that have zero value in the world. I have a music box that, I got for 50 cents that holds great value to me. It's broken to somebody else, but to me, it holds value. And so, yeah, in that regard, the stuff and happiness, it does make me happy. I'm not going to lie, and there's things like that I cherish. As far as, having the nicest car or the best clothes or any kind of status in that regard, I don't find any kind of, I don't know, those things just sort of wisp away on the wind for me. But there's things I would say that I treasure, but there's usually a story attached to it.
Yeah.
And the things that you want, whenever you work hard to get them, that's whenever it means something to you, and it's something that you'll value and appreciate. Whereas if you just have a ton of stuff, what do you actually value about it?
You're totally right.
The things that spark the memories to help you remember, because that's what you start losing through life. From the 90s, we probably remember a lot, but there's a little things that mementos that you come across, ticket stubs from Eagles concert, and all of a sudden it comes all the way back. And so things like that, that kind of stuff I love. But as far as cars and stuff,
not worried about that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I want, I guess, in this world, I need something stable. But as far as the type and the status attached with a brand and things like that just never has felt. And it's strange because I'm in branding, but and that may be why. Yeah. Maybe because you see the back door of that whole thing.
You could step back and say,
I've never been enchanted by advertising too much, even though, you know what I'm saying? I think it's from being on the backside of it, probably.
Right.
But that's a weird one for me, because stuff, stuff can mean two different things.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm all about retail therapy, though. Just saying. Yeah. If you had to evacuate your home because of a natural disaster, what 3 things would you take with you, and why?
Oh, we're talking about stuff, so here we go.
Yeah.
My
and
dog.
Ties in with
your dog, okay.
My dog and my old photographs that aren't on digital things.
Yes.
And
that's 2. Man,
Let's see.
now you're really narrowed down. You got 1 left. That's a tough.
probably my pillow. I don't know.
Sound like
comfort.
my wife. She's got a favorite pillow.
gotta get
Man, that
that
pillow
pillow.
goes everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the first thing I know we grabbed for Rita right before we left, photos, hard drives, and loved ones.
There you go.
Wow. Well, there you go.
I guess I should include my cats, but the dogs.
Yeah,
Just put them all in one
that's in the
container. They
that's
count
all in
as
the
one.
loved ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, I don't know what I'd answer for that. I mean, I would get with loved ones for sure, if that can be counted as one thing.
Yeah.
As far as items, that's a tougher one. That is. There is one thing that I have. It's not in here, but I keep it in my truck. It's a walking stick. And I've had it since I was probably 20 years old, and it's been through a lot. It's stained in blood and sweat and oil, and
It's got many memories.
it's got memories. And I mean,
Yeah.
I go walking with it in the mornings, and I told my wife, I said, I know this sounds strange, I said, but it's like it knows me better than the stick knows me better than anybody, because I've cried walking with it, I've laughed walking with it, I've contemplated my worst tragedies in my life with this in my hand, so
Yeah.
it feels like a friend almost.
Yeah.
I do have a piece similar to that. I found shortly after I hurt my back, during recovery, I would walk every day, try to get that in. And on a particularly bad day when I was feeling depressed and like, man, I'm just not going to recover from this, early 30s. And So I found this coin on the track, and I can't exactly remember what it says now. Things don't change. You do. I keep it with me all the time, but come to find out, it's like a...
I think it's an AA coin or something.
Yeah, AA coin.
Oh,
It's
really?
one of those coins.
Yeah, but we didn't know that, and he drilled a hole in it.
Yeah, I found it on a railroad track, and I
Put
was
it
like,
on a
something.
string so that we could always have it with us.
I think
Oh,
I
I
gave
love
it to
that.
you for
Yeah, like an anniversary or something. Or a special
after I've
gift.
carried it for a few
awesome.
years. But
Yeah.
but that's one little piece that I do carry around as a symbol of, you could always rebuild from anything, no matter how hard the challenges may seem.
Yeah.
You could really come back up.
I have a little medallion that's similar story. It's something that I'll spare you the length of the story, but just to say that it was, auspicious circumstances that it came into my possession. I don't still think about it to this day. It was 1995. I remember where I was at. It's kind of like that, and I keep it. I don't have it unaware it anymore because I'm scared to lose it. Honestly,
Yeah.
But I've put it on another object that I know where it's at all the time, and so I've my wife knows. I'm like that. If it goes out of place, I'm like, hey, where's that thing? And it's just, something no bigger than the size of a quarter can matter so much in your life. But it reminds, it's a door to like all this history of your life. That
Yeah, it's like a
Everything that changes,
representation of Hanuman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Always
right.
bringing you back.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's good. I like that. So we gotta get another question now. See, these are good questions. They
They are
create
good
good little
questions.
conversations.
Yeah, let's see what we got. Okay, if you were to die and come back as a person or a thing, what would it be?
I'd come back as a dog.
A dog.
A dog of somebody who pampers their dog.
I like that.
Yeah.
That would be the life,
My
though,
wife
right?
says a cat. She does. She says a lap
a
cat.
cat.
That's what she says. Yeah.
Yeah.
But dogs can have more fun. They can go running out in the woods and go swimming.
A person or a thing. I don't know. Dogs depend on the dog. You have a really good life, but maybe a tree, a really long living tree,
yeah.
just to see. how
Boy,
you-
that's a good answer.
We looked up some of the oldest trees the other day, and there are some. Gosh, how old are those trees?
It seems like
in-
5,000 or 6,000 years, if not
Yeah,
older.
but older than that. I think
Yeah.
close to 20,000 years old. There's some. Is it banyan trees?
Oh
in
yeah, and
California or something?
I've seen those. Somebody talking about that on the internet.
It's amazing.
Some of those trees in Africa, I don't know what they're called, but they have the unique shape. There's some of those that get really ancient too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was in Colorado when I first went to Colorado many years ago. I think it was like 1996 or something. One of the guys was telling me that the aspen tree, the quaking aspens, that they're all actually one tree system. Like they're all
really?
connected to each
Wow.
other. So it's one big living organism.
Wow.
I was like, and I don't know. I've never looked to see if it's true, but it just stuck with me. He was like, yeah, you which I thought there was kind of a philosophy in there too. He was like, well, this one tree, you're calling it a tree, so it's actually a whole network of trees that are connected to each other. So it's not, it's one organism, but they look like.
It's symbolizing life itself.
Yeah.
It's not the connectedness of us. We're just not physically connected.
Yeah, those trees were meditative. I remember one particular day driving up in the mountains, and we had pulled over, and the wind was blowing. I guess it was the way the light was hitting them. He said they call them quaking aspens.
Oh, really?
And they look like, it's an optical illusion, but it looks like
Like they're
energy,
vibrating?
like there's those
Wow.
sparkles, and you can really almost lose your depth of field in them. It was really kind of
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
yeah. So I don't know what I would be. I mean, a tree's a good answer. I mean, because you get to see some, especially a safe tree. Like, you know, what's that big tree? I didn't know it was there, but it's at the cathedral over in Lafayette.
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah, I
Oh,
never heard
it's
that. It's a
giant.
massive tree?
It's
We're
kind
gonna
of
have to check it out.
Oh, you should go check it out. It's right next to a really old cemetery, and I think it's the diocese offices is in a cathedral of some sort. And I had went over there for a business meeting, and I said, well, there's cemeteries here, and I like to go look at old cemeteries. And so I was walking, and I was like, what is this? I think it's called maybe the Jefferson oak, but it's... Honestly, I can't even tell you, because I thought, the one in Lake Charles, the Imperial Calcasieu oak, I was like, oh, that's a massive tree. Doesn't hold a candle to this oak. I mean, it
Really?
is just kind of magical. It looks like somebody made it up, honestly.
I have to check that
Yeah,
out.
I wanna
Yeah,
check
y'all
it
should
out.
check it out. It's worth your time, and it's in a nice little spot too. That it's sort of sacred, you can tell. And they've got, of course, you can't go. It's all fenced off, so you can't go touch it and mess it up. I guess because we would.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
you would.
Yeah. No, I guess a tree's a good answer. But you know what? I've always thought if I was going to be an animal, I love raptor birds.
Oh, wow.
I think I'd like to be some sort of like a majestic raptor bird, to kind of just one, so I wouldn't get eaten.
Yeah.
Because chances are you're the predator to some degree, but not for an aggressive reason. Just to be able to see really far and to fly really high.
You
and
probably fly higher than anything else.
Yeah, secure to just kind of sit at the top of the branches.
That's pretty cool.
I like that.
So was that your last question?
I think that was our 3 questions.
Man, those are 3 really good questions.
Yeah,
those 3
those
haven't
are
come
fun.
out before.
Yeah.
I know. Me and my family, this kind of was born out of the idea. We play these games when we get together, just questions, because you start to realize you think you know what everybody thinks in your family, but some of the questions will open doors, and you're going, "Wow, I didn't know my kid thought this," or had no
or
clue.
even for yourself.
Right? Yeah, I can't remember what it was the other night that we were talking about around the campfire, but I was just fascinated. We sat out there for 2 hours just talking about this one question.
Oh, that's fun.
And I don't know, it's just a lot of fun. My wife said that's one of her favorite things to do.
Yeah,
you know?
I love that. That was really cool.
You get to know each other on a deeper level.
Yeah. These questions, I mean, even something as simple as one of the guests the other day drew one out, and it said, do you eat candy or popcorn when you watch a movie? Well, that seems like a pretty straightforward question, but she said, I don't watch movies. They make me nervous. And and that alone creates this whole conversation that we had then about why does that happen. So I think it's interesting how one question can just take you.
Open up the box.
Yeah. Well, so what, if people want to, I'm sure they can go look you up and do search, which is what I would do, but how do people find you guys and like get in touch with you? I mean, web addresses, emails, what's the best way to follow you on Instagram? What do y'all prefer?
Well, Yoga Center, we're yogalakecharles.com.
Okay.
And on Facebook, I think you just look up Yoga Center. Stellar Beans, we're stellarbeanscafe.com.
Okay.
And same thing on Instagram, Facebook. We have all the social media sites.
So you can get from one to the other.
Yeah. And we have an app for the Yoga Center. I have one coming out for Stellar Beans.
Oh, really? So what will you be able to do on the app?
Well, with the Yoga Center, you could purchase all your classes. You could sign into classes.
Oh, cool.
It'll give you alerts if a class happens to be canceled, or coupons, just different things through the app. Stellar Beans, you'll be able to order on your app and pick up when you get to the store. It'll automatically know you're in the store. It'll alert the main register, and so they'll be able to call out your drink as soon as you come in. Be able to collect your little stamps each time you buy a coffee. Once you get 10 of them, you get a free coffee.
Cutting out the punch cards. Just doing a digital.
We'll keep those too for the folks that that want to stay old school. But we'll have the phones too, where it'll collect them a lot easier for you. You won't have to worry about the little punch card. But
right on.
Yeah,
fun stuff like that.
Waiter at Stellar Beans.
Okay.
Grubhub is coming out like any day now.
What's that? What was that?
Grubhub.
Oh, okay.
Another delivery service.
Oh, okay. I didn't know about
theirs
that.
is a little bit different than Waiter, but either way, we're going to be with both. And I actually have all the phone calls rolled over to my phone.
Okay.
So whenever I'm teaching yoga, I don't answer the phone.
Sure.
But the reason why is because we have all of those avenues of being able to order food through online versus calling, because if you call in, the baristas are working on people in front of them.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it just makes their life a whole lot better and more focused on what's going on in there, and then I can take care of the backside.
Right on. I mean, I get that too. Our office isn't like a walk-in type of place.
Yeah.
Most of our stuff comes in either email or phone, and if it's a phone call, they usually just leave me a message and say, hey, we have a project, and because we need to meet about it.
Yeah.
It's not something you can usually just knock out on the phone.
Set out a little piece of time and get it knocked out.
Yeah. Well, I'm really thankful that you guys agreed to come do this.
Well, thank you
we
for
had a
asking
blast.
us.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I think that I don't know how much people know. I'm sure y'all are well established in the community, and people probably know some of these stories, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't.
Yeah, I really enjoyed sharing things with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
We probably could have talked your ear off for another couple hours.
Oh, I could do that. You know what we're doing now, y'all may have seen it online, but we're doing mixtapes. And every 25 episodes, what I'm doing is I'm posting links to those episodes, and I'm getting the listeners to kind of let me know what 3 people they'd like to see in a conversation.
Oh, that's
wow.
really neat.
Kind of mix it up to where, because there's a lot of times people know of people and they feel like they know them, but they've never sat at a table. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's an opportunity to get people from different categories.
Wow, and the
wow.
conversations that would come up,
Yeah.
that would be wonderful.
that'd be really cool.
So that'd be cool. Get you guys in here for one of those, with somebody that's maybe them, but your lives are completely different, and just see what comes from that.
Yeah, so kind of idea.
Especially in a peaceful environment, because that's the whole thing. We're trying to set the vibe for the show, is that this is a safe place to talk about whatever you want. You don't have to hide anything. You don't have to come in here, and because what has happened almost every time is I've actually heard one guest say, I'm actually listening to that one right now, and they said, I had a list of things I said I wasn't going to talk about, but I'm about to talk about them.
Yeah.
Like, so, because that's sort of my, I guess, rage against the machine, against advertising to some degree, because I've done so much of the short dive messages for so long. It's created this desire to go, okay, look, let's slow it down and actually listen and get to know the real deal, not just the brand on the outside, but like who's inside of it.
What's on the inside?
Yeah. No, I do appreciate y'all taking the time and coming across the bridge. That.
And you know what? The traffic was not bad at all.
And I love you just